The New York Yankees are beginning this season with a storyline that not many people were fully expecting, and a big part of that early conversation has been the bullpen. Coming into the year, there were a lot of doubts, a lot of questions about who would step up, who would take control of the late innings, and whether this group could actually be reliable over the course of a long season. But in the first few games, one name has started to stand out, and that is Camilo Doval. His start to the season has been incredibly sharp, and if this level continues, it could completely change the way the Yankees approach close games throughout the year. Doval has come into these early appearances looking confident, aggressive, and most importantly, in control of his pitches. In the first couple of outings, he showed exactly why the Yankees believed in him when they brought him in. The strikeouts were there, the command looked much better, and hitters just did not look comfortable facing him. When a reliever comes into the game and immediately sets the tone like that, it changes the entire energy of the team, especially late in games where every pitch matters and every mistake can cost a win. One of the most interesting parts about his story with the Yankees is how different things look now compared to when he first arrived. His first stretch with the team was rough, and there is no other way to describe it. The earned run average was high, the walks were a problem, and it looked like he was struggling to find his rhythm. That first impression made a lot of people question whether he would really become a key piece in the bullpen or just another arm trying to figure things out. But baseball is a long game, and relievers especially can change their performance very quickly once they make adjustments. Over his later appearances, everything started to improve. The walks went down significantly, which is always one of the biggest indicators of whether a pitcher is truly improving or just getting lucky. When a pitcher stops giving away free bases, everything becomes easier. Strikeouts become more meaningful, ground balls become more valuable, and suddenly the pitcher is working ahead in counts instead of constantly pitching under pressure. That is exactly what started happening with Doval, and now it looks like he is carrying that improvement into this new season. If he continues pitching like this, the Yankees might have something very important at the back end of the bullpen. David Bednar is already expected to handle the closer role, but every great bullpen needs that set-up pitcher who can dominate the eighth inning and hand the game over with confidence. That role is incredibly important because sometimes the eighth inning can be even more difficult than the ninth, especially when the heart of the opposing lineup is coming up. If Doval can lock down that role, it gives the Yankees a very strong finishing combination in close games. This becomes even more important when you look at the starting rotation. As the season goes on and the starters begin to settle into their rhythm, the goal is always for them to pitch deeper into games. If the starters can consistently go 6 or 7 innings, and then the Yankees can hand the ball to Doval and Bednar, that shortens the game dramatically. Opposing teams would basically have a very small window to score, and that is how winning teams are built over a long season. Another thing that makes Doval so valuable is that he has experience closing games in the past. That experience cannot be ignored because pitching the ninth inning is different. The pressure is different, the mentality is different, and not every pitcher can handle it. Having someone who has already been in those situations gives the Yankees flexibility. On nights when the closer is unavailable or needs rest, Doval could step into that role without the moment being too big for him. That kind of depth is something every contender needs if they want to survive a full season and make a deep run later on. The early performance of the bullpen as a whole has also been very encouraging. Several pitchers have stepped up, and the group has managed to keep opponents from scoring in key moments. That is something that can build a lot of confidence across the entire roster. When the offense knows that a small lead might be enough to win, they play differently. When the starting pitchers know that the bullpen will protect their lead, they attack hitters more aggressively. Everything in baseball is connected, and a strong bullpen can quietly become one of the biggest strengths of a team. Of course, it is still very early in the season, and there are many games left to play. Consistency over time is what truly defines a great bullpen, not just a few good appearances in the first week. But the early signs are definitely positive, and if this group continues to perform like this, the Yankees could find themselves in a very strong position as the season moves forward. And if Camilo Doval continues on this path, he might end up being one of the most important pieces on this team before the season is over. As the season continues to unfold, the role of the bullpen becomes even more important, especially for a team like the New York Yankees that expects to compete deep into the season. Over the course of a long schedule, there will be many games decided by just 1 or 2 runs, and those games are often determined by what happens in the final innings. That is why the emergence of reliable late-inning arms can completely change the trajectory of a team's season. When a manager feels confident about the pitchers available in the 8th and 9th innings, it changes how he manages the entire game from the very beginning. Camilo Doval is starting to look like the kind of pitcher who can become a permanent fixture in those high-pressure situations. What stands out the most is not just the velocity or the movement on his pitches, but the confidence with which he is attacking hitters. He is not pitching like someone who is afraid of contact or trying to avoid mistakes by throwing outside the strike zone. Instead, he is challenging hitters, getting ahead in counts, and forcing them to react to his pitches rather than the other way around. That mentality is exactly what you want from a late-inning reliever. Another important factor in his improvement has been his control. Earlier in his time with the Yankees, walks were a major issue, and walks are often the biggest problem for relievers because they immediately create pressure. A walk in the late innings can quickly turn into a scoring opportunity, and in close games that could be the difference between winning and losing. But recently, his walk rate has gone down, and that has allowed him to pitch more aggressively and more efficiently. When a pitcher is consistently throwing strikes while still maintaining movement and velocity, he becomes very difficult to face. The Yankees' bullpen overall is starting to build an identity, and that is something every successful team needs. Some teams are known for their offense, others for their starting pitching, and many championship teams are remembered for having dominant bullpens that could shut down games. If the Yankees can continue developing this bullpen into a reliable unit, it will take a lot of pressure off the offense and the starting rotation. It also allows the team to win games in different ways, whether it is a high-scoring game or a tight pitching duel. Looking ahead, one of the biggest keys for this team will be consistency. It is easy to look good over a few games, but the real challenge is maintaining that performance over months. Hitters will start to adjust, scouting reports will become more detailed, and pitchers will need to continue making adjustments of their own. That is the constant battle in baseball, the adjustments and counter-adjustments that happen throughout the season. The pitchers who succeed are usually the ones who can adapt the fastest and maintain their confidence even after a bad outing. The Yankees also understand that managing the bullpen workload is extremely important. Relievers cannot pitch every single day, and overusing key arms early in the season can cause problems later in the year. That is why it is important for multiple pitchers to step up and share the responsibility. If several relievers can be trusted in important situations, it prevents burnout and keeps everyone fresh for the most important games later in the season. So far, it looks like several pitchers are starting to earn that trust. There is also a psychological aspect to having a strong bullpen. When opposing teams know that they only have 6 or 7 innings to score before facing dominant relievers, they start to feel pressure earlier in the game. Hitters may become more aggressive, take more risks, and that can lead to mistakes. On the other side, the Yankees can play with more patience and confidence, knowing that if they have a lead late in the game, they are in a very strong position to win. If the starting rotation continues to settle in and the bullpen continues to perform like this, the Yankees could become a very difficult team to beat in a series. Strong starting pitching combined with reliable late-inning relievers is a formula that has worked for many successful teams in the past. It shortens games, reduces scoring opportunities for opponents, and gives the team a consistent way to close out victories. And over the course of a long season, those close wins add up and can make a huge difference in the standings. What makes this situation even more interesting is that some of these bullpen arms still have room to improve. If Doval continues refining his control and maintaining his strikeout ability, he could become one of the most important relievers on the roster. The combination of velocity, movement, and growing confidence makes him a very dangerous pitcher in late-inning situations. And if he continues to perform in high-leverage moments, his role on the team will only continue to grow as the season progresses. The early part of the season is often about discovering what a team really has, finding out which players are ready to step into bigger roles and which areas still need improvement. For the Yankees, the bullpen was one of the biggest question marks coming into the season, but now it is starting to look like it could become one of their strengths. If that trend continues, it could completely change expectations for this team as the season moves forward and the competition becomes more intense. Another factor that cannot be ignored is how momentum works in baseball over a long season. When a bullpen starts performing well early, the confidence spreads throughout the entire roster. Position players feel more relaxed at the plate because they know a small lead might be enough. Starting pitchers attack the strike zone more because they trust the relievers behind them. This creates a chain reaction where the entire team begins to play more confidently, and that confidence often translates into more wins, especially in close games that could go either way. It is also important to remember that the season is full of ups and downs, and no bullpen stays perfect forever. There will be games where relievers give up runs, where leads disappear, and where things do not go as planned. The key for a strong bullpen is not perfection, but resilience. The best relief groups are the ones that can have a bad night and come back the next day performing at a high level again. That mental toughness is what separates average bullpens from elite ones, and that is something the Yankees are hoping to see develop as the season continues. For Doval specifically, maintaining his mechanics and control will be the biggest challenge. Power pitchers often rely heavily on velocity and movement, but control is what truly determines whether they become dominant or inconsistent. If he continues limiting walks and forcing hitters to swing at his pitches, he will continue to be very effective. But if the walks start to rise again, then innings can quickly become complicated. So the focus for him will likely remain on command, pitch location, and staying ahead in the count. Another interesting element is how roles in the bullpen can evolve over the season. Sometimes a pitcher starts the year in the seventh inning role and ends up becoming the primary setup man, or even the closer later in the season. Performance usually dictates these changes, and teams that have multiple pitchers capable of closing games often have a big advantage. It gives the manager flexibility and allows the team to adjust depending on matchups, workloads, and injuries. That flexibility can be extremely valuable during the most important part of the season. As the Yankees continue playing more series and facing different opponents, the bullpen will be tested in many different situations. There will be extra inning games, high-scoring games, pitching duels, and long stretches without rest days. Those are the moments that truly reveal how strong a bullpen really is. Depth becomes important, communication becomes important, and the ability to throw strikes under pressure becomes the most important skill of all for a reliever. If this group continues trending in the right direction, the Yankees could find themselves winning many close games, and those types of wins often define a season. Teams that consistently win tight games usually end up near the top of the standings because they know how to protect leads and execute in high-pressure moments. And if the bullpen continues to grow stronger and more consistent, it could quietly become one of the main reasons why this team stays competitive throughout the entire season. But before we continue, please remember to join our channel and give this video a like. Your support allows us to keep bringing you the latest news about the New York Yankees. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments. The noise around Cody Bellinger and the New York Yankees is beginning to feel louder than usual, and not in the way the Bronx faithful would hope. What started as subtle frustration has now evolved into something far more compelling and potentially unsettling for a franchise that thrives on stability and star power. According to growing whispers inside the clubhouse circle, Bellinger has made what insiders describe as a strong and pointed remark regarding his current situation. While no official statement has been released publicly, the tone of his alleged comments suggests a player far from comfortable. Sources close to the situation indicate that the outfielder is not satisfied, a phrase that carries weight considering his stature and expectations upon arriving in New York. The speculation centers on a combination of factors. Some believe Bellinger's role within the lineup has not aligned with what he envisioned, while others hint at deeper concerns related to team chemistry and long-term direction. There's also talk that the pressure cooker environment of playing in New York may be amplifying frustrations that might otherwise remain internal elsewhere. What makes this situation particularly intriguing is Bellinger's reputation. Known for his composed demeanor, it is rare for him to be linked with dissatisfaction narratives. That alone has fueled further speculation that something significant could be brewing behind closed doors. Whether it's a matter of personal expectations, communication with the coaching staff, or broader organizational concerns, the lack of clarity only adds to the intrigue. Within league circles, rival executives are already paying attention. Any sign of unrest involving a player of Bellinger's caliber inevitably sparks quiet conversations, even if no concrete developments have emerged. For the Yankees, this is a delicate moment, balancing performance, perception, and the ever-present spotlight that magnifies even the faintest hint of discord. For now, everything remains in the realm of rumor. But in a city where whispers can quickly turn into headlines, Bellinger's reported dissatisfaction is a storyline that refuses to fade. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the New York Yankees, please subscribe to our channel and give us a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.